If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump,
Hello.
for the first 49 minutes, we don't talk about fitness, but we do have some fun introductory conversation. We talk about David Bowie and the androgynous lady killers. Good conversation there. Adam talks about why he
Bowie
painted his toenails. We talked about the Lime and Bird scooter regulations in San Jose.
Lame.
You sons of bitches.
Always.
Then I talked about the McGuire twins and the growing business of obesity. For you guys that don't know who the McGuire twins are, if you ever looked at the Guinness Book of World Records at any time in the 80s or 90s, those were the world's heaviest twins on the motorcycles. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Then we talked about the survival of the fittest, the individuality of success. We mentioned how Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin are leaving Patreon.
Whoops.
We gave more of our opinion on Organifi's new nootropic product, Organifi Pure with lion's mane. It's actually good stuff. If you go to Organifi.com/mindpump and use the code MINDPUMP, you'll get 20% off. Justin brought up an article on virtual reality basketball. It's going great.
It's pretty awesome.
And then Justin and I talk about how our kids love skinny dipped almonds as a snack. Skinny Dipped is one of our sponsors. If you go to skinnydipped.com/mindpump and enter the code mindpump, you will also get 20% off. Then we talk about fitness. The first fitness question was, how do we recommend people combat seasonal depression? We give our advice as to what we think will help people feel better when the weather gets cold and gloomy. Next question, is it true that short people put on more muscle faster than tall people? Do they have an advantage? Find out. Next question, what are our favorite exercises that are outside of what's known as the sagittal plane? Sagittal plane represents all the basic exercises like squats, bench press, rows, exercises basically in front of your body where you're moving straight ahead. But there are lots of exercises that move you side to side or rotate your body. We give our favorites in that part of this episode. And the final question, what should you do with your workouts when you're having horrible allergy issues? Also, I'd like to tell everybody that MAPS Anabolic, our flagship foundational MAPS fitness program, is 50%
It's the crown jewel of our MAPS program.
50% off. It's also getting revised. A new version will be being released soon. So if you enroll now, you will get updated automatically at no extra cost. Here's how you get 50% off. Go to mapsfitnessproducts.com. Use the code RED50, RED50, so RED50 without a space for 50% off. Also at mapsfitnessproducts.com, you can check out our other MAPS programs, which are designed for different people with different goals.
I'm afraid of Americans.
What?
I'm afraid of the world.
What is that?
What is that?
David Bowie, dude. You don't remember that song?
Yeah.
I'm afraid of Americans.
You know, my girlfriend told me the other day that she finds him very attractive.
He's like so androgynous.
Yeah, and then she's like, yeah, you know what it is? We had this whole conversation. Women, a lot of women, not all women, of course, but a lot of women find androgynous men very attractive.
I know Prince did fairly well with the ladies.
Yeah, why is that? What do you guys think that is? Let's speculate on that, because
I think it's
androgynous men are by nature not traditionally
they don't
masculine.
care.
Well, define androgynous, please.
David Bowie, Prince.
That's not a definition. What is the definition of that?
Androgynous, male, female, kind of.
Some hybrid of the two.
Yeah, that's what it used to mean.
Well,
Maybe, Doug, look up the definition.
Then that's an obvious answer to me. It's because, part of what, I would say that I have some of these traits. I'm the guy who paints his toes. I'm very confident and secure in my manhood that I'll do things that would be arguably feminine. So you have both masculine and feminine traits, right?
Yeah, but you're not androgynous.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you're androgynous.
No, you have a masculine portrayal, but you do things to get attention.
My point is no, and it's not that. It's that I'm comfortable doing those things regardless of what sex it's supposedly attached to. And that this would be a more extreme example of what I'm using for myself. But what I think that why it's been attractive to women and those characteristics that I think that I have is because they can relate and connect to it. It's why it's why
like, oh, nice shoes, Adam.
Well, there's.
I wear those.
Well, yeah, right. Okay, so no, not like that. It's more like, they can appreciate that. Oh, you're into fashion and things like that too, which tends to be more of a feminine type of.
I have a different theory. I think it's because it displays confidence. That's all.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's somebody who's they're just
confident in who they are.
They're just
able,
confident,
secure.
Yeah,
that's exactly what my point is right now. I'm trying to tell you that you have the confidence to be okay with having traits that tend to be more feminine and masculine, and you're okay weaving in and out of that. The confidence of that and the relatability of the opposite sex have got to be the two things that draw.
You know what, though?
I think too, it can only work if it really is who you are.
But you see,
right?
So like for me, trying to be like all of a sudden paint my nails and shit, like it just wouldn't. I couldn't make it work because it's just not who I am.
You don't know that. Try it out and see what happens.
Trust me. Full on.
No, a lot of my buddies have tried all that stuff, and because they saw the success that I had with the opposite sex with that, they assumed that they would try the same way too. Problem was, I wasn't doing it like that, where it's like, oh, I'm going to do this to try and attract people. It's like, okay, I can respect this. I can see where this is cool. And I can totally embrace it and be okay with somebody teasing and making fun of me, and it wouldn't waver how I felt.
You would have still done it if girls didn't give you attention over it.
Oh, that's hard to say. When I'm 20 years old, like, I'm sure that accelerated it, right? I'm sure getting the attention from it and seeing the positive.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so
almost everything people do when they're in their 20s.
Right. Right. I mean, I think, subconsciously, I'm sure I was.
Because you saw in the 80s this big sort of explosion of that, even in like the heavy metal, which was like a very testosterone-driven like music.
That was the end of metal.
It turned into like this crazy perm
it's kind of it's this counterculture thing too, right? It's kind of this counterculture thing. Like, it's not normal for men to paint your toes, so I'm going to do it. But now it's cool because of that.
This has happened forever, though. What's his name? Who's a famous Italian guy from way back, centuries ago, that all the women, what's his name?
Casanova?
Casanova. Thank you very much, Doug. I think he displayed some feminine qualities. I think he was androgynous for the day, for those days. And, of course, he's famous for being like the most famous womanizer, I guess, of all time. I think it's the confidence thing. The whole feminine thing is interesting to me because I think if a man acts too feminine, I think that's going to backfire. I don't think it's necessarily... Yeah. Because I can think of David Bowie. Did David Bowie...
He was both teams.
But he didn't move... Was he really in real life?
He was definitely both teams.
He didn't move feminine, though. You know what I mean? He didn't have feminine... He kind of wore makeup and stuff, but...
Yeah, no, he dabbled like in the feminine realm, but like he I think what it was is just like, I don't know, it was a confidence thing, but he had a coolness about him, in the way that like he just was large, like he really embodied the rock star kind of look to it, and I think that I don't know what it is, but it's a presence. It's like a stage presence. A lot of times, like people see, like even with Prince and all that, like he had like a lot of real feminine type regalia that he'd wear on stage, but like he was just such a good performer, and like I think all that was just like, well, whatever. Like Prince just rocks the fuck out of it.
That's another thing that's attractive is when they're
just so good at their craft, it doesn't really matter.
Well, it's more than being good at your craft. It's getting lost in your craft and then watching someone get lost in the craft because it displays confidence also. Like you're confident enough to act crazy. Like when you ever watch a musician, when they're so into their music, you can tell that they're not aware of their facial expressions. They're not aware of how they're moving. They're just in it. That's an attractive thing because it displays like an incredible amount of confidence, right? Like you're just lost. You're lost in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably...
I can get on board with that. I think it's a confidence thing. I definitely think that's a lot of it for sure.
Yeah. But that was David Bowie. She said she watched, what was that show that, it was like a movie for kids, but kind of not.
Labyrinth?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Labyrinth, dude.
It
was so great.
I've never seen that.
You never watched Labyrinth?
Oh,
no.
Man.
It's actually kind of scary for kids. Yeah. Have you had your kids watch it yet?
They didn't like some of the parts for sure, because like the puppets in it was like, that was when Muppets were like everywhere, right? Like they had like Dark Crystal, and they had all these kid
Dark
movies
Crystal
had a lot of like puppeteering involved, and so like some of them were real creepy. And in Labyrinth, like I remember they had like some scenes where just these real like creepy creatures were coming, out of nowhere, and it was pretty scary.
I had the girl in Labyrinth. What's her name?
Yeah.
That's the way you said that. Pull up Labyrinth, Doug.
She was hot back in the day. What
She
her
was-
name?
How old of a movie is it? Is this 90s?
That's a good question. Is it early 90s or late 80s?
Yeah, good.
It might be late 80s.
oh, wow, that old.
It might be like 1987,
Oh, wow.
88 or something
Oh,
like
wow.
that. Are you finding out for us, Doug? Yeah, he's on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see. Let's look at the picture here.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, I remember.
Oh, Jennifer Connelly.
yes,
That's
she was
right.
in Rocketeer. She was She
She
peaked
was-
in Rocketeer. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
Rocketeer.
Woo.
Yeah, she was but
Smoking hot.
1986.
Wow.
Yeah, look at that.
No, I do not remember this.
Dude, you never watched this, huh? We got to look at like the cover photo of
Right there, isn't
of,
it?
Yeah, but you got to see.
It was
see if you
great.
recognize
He was
it.
in this he totally looked. He had this spiky kind of mullet, like rock star mullet with like this makeup, and like he had these two crystal balls that he would like roll in his hand.
Oh yeah,
It
there's
was like this weird trick he did.
yeah, and
Oh, wow, I don't remember any of this.
yeah, and he's got the hair and he's all weird.
What's it rated? Did it get rated good? Like it's not.
I think it's not G.
No, not like that type of rating. I mean, like how did it get like Rotten Tomatoes? How's it?
Oh, Labyrinth is a very famous. Well, it's 7.4 up there.
Oh, dude. So have you seen Legend? It's like
Yeah, I've
in
seen
that same kind of fantasy category.
Oh, you know what? Now maybe I've seen clips of this, like running on old HBO, rerun stuff.
Yeah, Labyrinth was awesome. So was Legend. Both of them had a girl that I was extremely. Had a crush
Legend
on.
I was scared of Legend. That's the one with the
Big devil guy.
horns. Yeah.
That guy was crazy. Yeah.
That's probably the coolest looking devil I've
Yeah.
ever seen on any
Yeah,
movie.
They killed it on that one.
Yeah, what's the name? What's his name? Played the devil. What's the actor's name? Maybe Doug can tell us who the guy that played the devil. It's someone you wouldn't even know who played the devil.
But like a well-known actor.
It's a well-known actor that you would never.
Well, Tom Cruise is in Legend.
Yeah, he's a kid in it.
Yeah.
He's a kid. I don't know. Maybe you can find out. The girl in there I had a huge crush on her too. 1985, huh? Look at that.
Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, whatever.
She's definitely one of
Yeah,
them.
who knows? Anyway,
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
Yeah.
Tim Curry played the freaking devil guy.
What?
Yes.
I did not.
Yeah, exactly.
Did not know that. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
I just learned that the other day. So you guys,
Fun facts.
you guys know all the scooters that we're seeing outside?
Yeah.
You know, these little
Bird and lime.
Yeah. First off, what do you guys think about those?
I think they're awesome.
I love them, man.
I think they're freaking amazing.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
Isn't it great?
liberating?
I think it's great. I think it's getting people. We want to save the environment. You know, these are electric scooters.
Yeah.
A lot of people. I know people who live in San Francisco who use the scooters and the electric bikes now entirely. Mm-hmm. They're like, I don't need to get on.
I would love to see us go that direction.
Well, what's happening is a lot of people are not using public transit and stuff as a result, which I think is great too. Fuck
Yeah.
it, that's awesome. But anyway,
Of course.
so with all good things, the local governments have to step in. So San Jose City Council now passed an ordinance that is going to start regulating the scooter riders and the companies that put them around. So each company now is going to have to pay an annual permit application fee
so stupid, dude.
of $2,500 and $124 per device each year to operate. They're also going to need to limit the scooter speed to 12 miles per hour. How fast are these things going?
Where's my money?
I think they were going like 20, I think.
Are they really?
Yeah, they move. They keep going.
Yeah. So they're gonna.
So stupid.
Well, it's gonna make it more expensive. That's all. So you're gonna get because right now, what is it? It's like $1 to turn it on.
No, it's even cheaper. It's like 10 cents to turn it on.
No, it's $1 I think first, and then it's like certain amount of cents per.
I don't think so.
They're cheap, dude.
It's super cheap. I think
Yeah.
it's like 10 cents. I think it just goes right away. I think as soon as you turn it on, you're getting charged 10 cents, and then it's like 10 cents every mile or something like that. Or
I'm starting to see them by my house now.
I mean, it's inevitable. Of course, they're going to want their cut. You know.
Do you know? Do you know who?
So stupid.
You know who foresaw this, right? Who invented the Segway? What's his name?
Oh, I don't know. But there was.
They thought that would be the future of transportation when they invented
Right.
it. But of course, it was way too expensive and all
you
that
had to
stuff.
do
Way ahead of
and you
his
had to do-
time,
You had to
too.
do the work, right?
What do you mean?
No. That's the one where you hold. It's like
Oh,
Paul Blart.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
he's on that
yeah.
thing.
That
Have you
thing.
have you guys ever ridden a Segway?
No.
Never?
It's way too dorky.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, have you ever seen? So there's a bunch of them in Santa Cruz.
San Francisco's got a
that will
bunch, too.
go onto like the boardwalk and everything, and they sort of lead. They wear these dorky ass bike helmets, and they're like standing all
Those are
upright.
the tours.
I just can't. I can't imagine myself being in that and be like, "Go, look at me." No,
No.
Scooter, way cooler.
I'm with you, Justin, on that one.
I just can't. I can't do it.
Yeah.
What if you put like spikes on it or something? I don't know.
It would need something.
It
like
reminds
that.
me like a trike. You know what I'm saying? Like the tricycles, the motorcycles that are 3 wheels. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, can't do
You know
it.
that
You're not gonna show up at a biker bar and be like, "Hey guys,
with your trike.
with your trike, get the fuck out of here. You're not welcome."
When I think of a trike, there's 2 things I think of. One is, did you guys ever read the Guinness Book of World Records when you were a kid?
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you guys did? Love that book.
I mean, like literally, from cover to cover type of deal, or
I
no?
looked at
no,
the pictures.
No, yeah,
yeah.
I thumbed through it all the time. But
hold on.
Did I read it? Did I sit down and like?
No. Listen, I know you guys have seen this picture. You guys ever see a picture of the world's heaviest twins? Do you guys remember that?
on those little tiny mini bikes?
Yes.
Yeah, dude.
See, I think of that. I knew you would have seen that.
Yeah,
World's heaviest twins. Anyway, I think
That's an iconic photo.
and it's like the back of them, like riding away, and they're really obese.
Yeah.
That, and then I also think of that. I remember reading that. Oh, the McGuire twins. There they are. Look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally remember that. Especially
World's-
the ones where they're going away from the camera.
Yeah. Now I don't think those are mini bikes, bro. I think those are regular.
Those are mini.
Those are regular size
That's a
bikes.
valid point.
Look at those
Oh
guys.
my god, those guys are big.
Yeah, they're big dudes.
Wow.
Yeah, I think those are regular motorcycles.
Are they? They're not alive still.
No, I think
can't-
they
they can't
I
be
think they
alive.
died in 1970
Like
something.
a day after that picture.
Like a day after that picture. So, whoa, go down that a little bit more, Doug. Let me see how heavy they were. They were 764 and 814.
No way.
Wow,
That's how much they weighed?
bro, those
Whoa.
might be regular bikes. You might be right.
Why
Oh my
would
God.
why would
How
one of
tall
them
are
be
they?
heavier than the other one? He steals the food from his brother.
He does.
Well, that's not.
he's
I
not
mean,
looking.
30 pounds is nothing when you're talking about 700-800 pounds, right? That's like
Isn't that crazy?
That's like a day. Like that. They weighed that day. He was heavier.
It's like water weight.
Think about that.
He had
How much,
more salt.
How much do you fluctuate when you're that big? Like I've gotten to a point when I was at the biggest.
Fluctuate 30 pounds.
I fluctuate 9 pounds through the night. Like these guys are fucking 4 times my size.
That's not a good. That's a fucking good.
36
point.
pounds,
Interesting.
right?
I
If you're
wonder.
4 times my size, why could you not fluctuate 36 pounds? I would think so.
Point. Maybe his brother pooped before they weighed.
Right?
So I used to have a lady that worked in my personal training studio who was a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, and she would work with people that were like severely disabled, obese, like 700, 800 pounds. She said she's worked with them.
Wow.
And so I would ask her questions that you've always wanted to know the answer to, right? Like, how do they
Like how they clean in the folds.
how do they clean? Like, and so she would say when they would bathe them, you would have to lift folds and scrub and clean. Otherwise, they would get like infections and rashes. And then I said, what about like poop? Because that's a lot of
It's a lot of volume.
it's a lot of butt cheek too.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, right. Like there's going to be a lot of paste
yeah,
on the sides.
Thanks, Justin.
What? I
Fucking visual.
just get to it. You know what I mean? Like I know what you're trying to say.
He said,
No, what is Robin Big say? Mud butt?
Yeah,
A lot of-
your mud butt.
A lot of mud butt.
paste. No, and she said that's exactly right. She said they wouldn't wipe because they couldn't or whatever.
Oh
and
my god.
because it goes through, right? Because you got the anus, and then there's a lot of cheek before it comes out.
Well, that's why.
So it would just spread.
That's what Robin Big, he talks about mud butt, and that's why he would stick a piece of toilet paper after you go to the bathroom. You still stick a toilet paper up in there, so you don't get
leave it
shit
in
all
there?
over. So you don't get shit all over your underwear.
wow.
Yeah, you don't remember him talking about
I
that?
don't remember that part.
I do,
Yeah.
but I don't remember what that was exactly.
Yeah,
I remember mud butt. That's,
Yeah, he
that's,
talked about because they were teasing him because he had toilet paper in his butt cheeks. Rob was giving him a hard time or some shit, right?
Oh my god.
And he's like, "Oh no, you got to do that." Like talks about how he folded the toilet paper and then he wedges it between it, so he did because of mud butt. Because after he takes his shit, because it's probably impossible for him to get all of it, so he makes sure he puts a piece of paper
all
in
these
there
things
so it doesn't.
we didn't consider. Yeah.
Well, these are all questions I always have. I always want to know the answer to, like astronauts. How do they poop in their suit and stuff like that? Like these are questions that are important to.
Right.
Well, not important, but when you're a kid, be honest. When you're a kid, you ask these kind of questions. Like, okay, that's cool that the deepest submarine went this deep. Like, what does the bathroom look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you do for?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Some of the
smell travel
most
the
successful companies that are like online are companies that cater to people that are like morbidly obese that we don't even see.
it's a growing market. No
Yeah.
pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It is very.
No, really though.
true.
I remember when I was coming to a client of mine. I think I might have shared this on the podcast a long time ago, and I was a part of this company. This was probably 13 years ago, and we had created this ergonomical office chair. And it was, the shaft of it had a 15-degree play in all directions, so you had to kind of stabilize your core, and then
This was that really expensive chair.
Yeah, it was like $300 some bucks. It was right after the .com, and we were on the way down. And here we are trying to sell a chair for really expensive. And one of my clients, really smart lady that would always like give me, business and entrepreneur advice, like totally shit on this idea. And she's just like, you're thinking backward. She's like, that's you and what you want because you're a health and fitness guy, but you are talking about a very small percentage of the population. You want a growing market that's accelerating in a far larger market, then you should appeal to the morbidly obese. So instead of like trying to create things that for the healthy and fit conscious person, why don't you create a tool to help fat people open the door, or help fat people with their punch the numbers on their phone, or use oversized utensils or thing. And she's like,
makes sense.
No, she was right.
Yep.
She's right. She's
that
like,
is a market. It's a huge market.
Yeah.
Again, no pun intended.
Yeah. No, she's like, there's way more money in that than there is in your idea. And I was just like, you kind of
so like a chair that is like wider in the seat,
right,
more comfortable.
Yes.
The whatever fridge underneath it.
Right.
Yeah. Stuff
appealing to
fridge underneath it.
Well, I mean, hey, you guys laugh
like a hole you could just open up so you can just dump right there.
No, I'm not going that far. But think about the market that you'd be catering to. Look at airlines are having to have a big conundrum now because they're getting sued over people having to buy 2 tickets or whatever to take up 2 chairs.
I find that crazy.
I think that's stupid. I don't think you should be able. I think suing a company is silly. Imagine going to a store. Imagine if I went to Pizza Hut and I'm like, "Can I have a burger?" They're like, "We make pizza." Well, I'm gonna fucking sue you because I want a burger.
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't produce that. Like, my bad. You know, this is the size of our chair. So,
do any of those people ever win though? Those suits? Are they winning those suits?
I hope not.
I don't think they are. I think we hear about them and then we make a big deal about them, but I don't think they actually fucking win.
If they position it as a discriminatory thing,
I mean, it's not like it's not like the lady who made a ton of money who dropped the hot coffee from McDonald's on her lap. She got a lot of money, right?
A lot,
right?
Yeah, she actually had, I think, 2nd and 3rd degree burns on her vagina.
Oh my god!
Because that's where she dropped the coffee.
That's right.
Yeah, I thought it was. I know it was her inner thigh. I didn't know it actually got her vagina.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, do you remember how hot that coffee used to be?
Very hot.
Oh my god!
They had to change it because of that. I believe they had to change it, and they had to do the caution thing and all that stuff because of her.
I remember like my friends' parents, like we would go like on a ski trip or something, and they would stop, and they had to have it, and they wanted it like molten lava hot like that.
Yeah. Starbucks, you can ask for that.
Extra hot.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, why?
I don't understand.
Just so they could have it for a longer time.
Up in Tahoe, where I just came back from, I think all the Starbucks and all the coffees that I drink, all of them were fucking super hot. It's because it's so freezing outside. So I think that's the idea. Is they probably, they probably boil it at a higher temperature because of the fact.
Well, boiling water is the same temperature.
Well, they serve it at a higher temperature.
What makes me, because back in the day, you know how you checked if something, if something was dangerous, you just kind of looked at it and like, well, I don't know if I should do that. And then that's it. It's your decision. Yeah. I think it's crazy that people are getting sued for stuff like that. You know what I mean? I thought that's always a suit that people bring up and use as a silly example, but I do think it's silly. Get the fuck out of here.
Well,
it's
our state too, though, right? I mean, we're the ones that allow like weird shit like that.
California's the worst.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Right.
You look at the tags on some things. It's gotten so ridiculous now that the warnings don't mean anything.
They don't mean anything. Who pays attention to a warning anymore?
Nobody does. No. If you read the tag on something, it's 15 feet long. There's 3 or 4 cancer risks associated with something. Yeah. There's a bunch of like, please don't use this hair dryer to drive your car or some weird shit like that.
Or use it in the bath. Yeah. Please don't use your hair dryer in the
shower
while you're
don't use this. Don't use this in the shower. Yeah. Well, let's back up for a second. Yeah. If you're using a hair dryer while you're wetting your hair, maybe you should be electrocuted. I don't know. You know what I mean?
It's Darwinism.
It doesn't make any sense. Don't use scratch and sniff stickers on the bottom of the pool.
I'm with the survival.
You're toasting your bread while you're taking a bath. You're
What are your thoughts on the survival of the fittest?
I think if someone's malicious and they're trying to hurt someone, of course they should be liable. But I mean, should should companies be liable for, if they're lying, that's different. Like if a tobacco company says, no, our products are totally safe, and it's found that they knew that it wasn't, that's different. But should like dessert companies be sued for making someone overweight?
Yeah, I think if they're definitely hiding information and like, you know, there's potential dangers and things that they're not disclosing fully, like that's where I get really adamant. Like this is, you know, we got to do something about
Yeah,
this.
like if the woman ordered a cold coffee and then she got it and then it burned her. Like that's different than, can I have a hot coffee please? And then she spills it.
No, but
it's
what's your thoughts on the survival of the fittest? Like a lot of people still, that's how we were supposed to evolve anyways. That just these natural people that are stupid or weaker that die off. It's just that's how it was meant to be.
It still is that. It's already still that way. It's just different. If it's still like that.
No, that's what I mean. It is the same thing, right?
Well,
how do you feel about it?
When you say fittest, people think it means strongest, or this is the way it really is. I think it's survival of the most mindful and responsible is usually what it is. Like people who tend to be responsible, have integrity, conscientious, and hardworking tend to do better and succeed and tend to make better choices in everything, right? Like they tend to make better food choices. They tend to take care of themselves better. They tend to pay more attention to their relationships. They tend to do better in business. And so if you want to live in a society where you have kind of free will and you reap the benefits of your decisions, and you also, you know, the pay your consequences of your own stuff, and if you want to live in a society like that, then you have to be okay with that. If you're not okay with that, then you have to come up with a way to make everybody exactly the same. And just, you know, FYI, every attempt at ever doing that has created far, far worse problems.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the worst things that humans have ever done has been in pursuit of that, of trying to make everybody the same.
Trying to build everybody up while taking the top performers down.
Yeah, just eliminating everything. There is no, but it doesn't work that way because
I feel like we see that a lot.
of people trying to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's a luring thought, but it's a very
'cause
dangerous
the
one.
majority are somewhere in the lower end to middle range, right? That you know, all we see is like the few that are just, you know, dominating.
Nobody wants to take responsibility for themselves. It's hard to do. It's speaking in our field. If you're overweight or unhealthy or whatever, you have a health problem. It's you don't want to look and you don't want to say, you know what, this is mostly my fault. You know what I mean? You want to say something like, well, it was my genetics or my environment, or, you know, cheap food is not good for me and that's why. You don't want to do that. You don't want to bring responsibility. You especially don't want responsibility over shit that happens to your kids, even though a lot of it is a parent's responsibility. But you talk to a parent of a child, for example, who's obese, and try telling them it's their fault and watch what happens. You're going to get some fucking spikes thrown at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just human nature. But the irony of that is that being responsible and taking ownership is actually quite empowering. As difficult as it is, it's a very empowering way to be, because then you actually realize you have more control than you thought you did. You know what I mean? Or at least you feel that you do.
Right.
So anyway, that's that.
Hey, did you read you sent over, or somebody sent over, you or Jackie sent over the not a study, but the article on people waking up at 4 a.m. to work?
I didn't read it.
Oh yeah,
damn it, dude! I was hoping somebody read that.
Why don't you read
I skimmed it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I skimmed it.
Because
But
I didn't get to it. You guys, now that
give you, like, all
now
the
that you got
details.
these guys sending articles over, they're sending so many. Like I read the dairy one because I worked on a dairy.
Yeah.
And I was a part of that. Did you read that one?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So that wasn't that interesting to me. Who is it?
It says in the article, the world's most successful people aren't worried about what time others wake up. They wake up and work on the schedule that works for them.
yeah,
And that goes against the whole, like,
yes,
successful people need to wake up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m.
Early bird gets the worm.
No, I think
I
some
love
of the most successful people of all time were late. What are they called? Late birds. They slept. They stayed up all night.
Yeah.
And they woke up late, especially creative people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's such an individual variance to that, and like they're what it is people idolize certain people and they want to give what's been working for them, and it's like their wiring, like it's the way they do things specifically just to them and their business and what they created. It has nothing to do with what they're like.
I love hearing that because that one of the things that I just struggle with. I know we've gotten recommended multiple times about interviewing some of these Navy SEAL guys and stuff on the show, and they're all kind of like hype motivational dudes, and the thing that it just doesn't appeal to me because I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
I've tried to be the guy who gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and does all this stuff, and it's just like I don't perform best there. I am the guy who will stay up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when my mind is running the most. That's when I'm taking the most notes. That's when the most ideas come to me. And no matter how much I try and train myself otherwise, it's just doesn't feel natural to me. And so instead of trying to fight what feels natural to me, I'd rather feed what is already working for me and get better at it.
That's same for me. If I left it where I would just do what felt best to me, I would stay up late and wake up late. I wake up early because I have kids, get them to school, and so just it wouldn't work for me.
You're adapting to whatever schedule is going to work best for efficiency.
I hate that message that they all present because they present it so biased, like all successful people that they all have this morning routine. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. That's not true at all.
Do you know
I'm
what?
Very successful. I don't fucking have a morning
most
routine.
of them, they have to get up earlier because there's so much work to do because they're so bombarded. Like, oh fuck, I gotta get a little bit earlier just to get this before the meeting.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know what it reminds me of is a human psychology in which when we see someone doing something right or someone that's successful, sometimes we have a tough time connecting what made them successful, the activities and the habits that they have that made them successful. So instead, we look at everything. So, for example, let's say you idolize Steve Jobs, and you're like, "Oh, I want to be just like Steve Jobs," you know. And so then you like
the turtleneck.
Yeah. So then you
got everything.
Yeah, you wear his clothes or you brush your teeth the same way he did, and maybe it's because the way he walked. Like none of that stuff, was the reason why he was successful. I think we should look at the more obvious stuff, like what do all successful people have in common? They probably work hard. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So instead of trying to wake up at 4 a.m., how about you just don't be lazy?
It's funny though. Why do we gravitate towards that? We want to hear like this. Everyone's looking to hear this like secret or this breakthrough. Like, oh man,
They think there's a cheat code.
He
People
gets
have
up
found.
he runs 5 miles every morning at 4 a.m. and then does 1,000 push-ups, and then they're like, oh my god, that's why I'm not a millionaire yet. Like I've been missing this
Well,
piece.
and the reason why it keeps getting perpetuated is because like successful people know that's what all these people want. And so they produce a book or they produce like some sort of candid response that feeds into that idea that it's just that easy. Yeah. Here's the formula, just replicate it and it's going to work.
Right.
And that's called MLM.
Well, it's like fitness. People are looking for the secret to fitness. Like,
Right.
Oh, okay. So it's if you work out at this way, or if you make it cold in your room and you eat, then it does this. And it's like, well, actually, no, it's just consistency. I mean, really, that's the key. That's the main key. Like if you worked out and your workout was like okay, and your diet was pretty good, but you were like that every day,
right,
you're gonna do way better than the guy over there that's like, he's doing the heart rate monitor variability and he's got all the perfect everything.
It's all about refining your process each and every single day. Get better every day. Like figure something out that's going to help within your process, whatever it is that you're trying to get towards. Like make that more efficient, and always think like that. Don't ever stop thinking you could make something better and improve.
I like that. What Doug just pulled up an article.
Why don't work Gary Vaynerchuk's schedule, and neither should you. That's the title of that article. Yeah, whatever works for you, man. Some people are very successful operating at a particular way, and other people have to operate a different way, and they're very successful. And there's different paths to success, and then there's different definitions of success too.
Right.
Yeah,
that's another very big.
No, that's a major one to me too. A lot of times we're chasing after what somebody else defines as success, and it really has nothing to do with what you would probably find is successful for yourself. I know that, and I also think that's also evolved and changed as I've gotten older. Like there's different things that I value today than what I valued 15 years ago, and so part of my definition for success today that's different than before. Mine was a number that I was driving after. Well, then what happens when you achieve and surpass that number and you realize, oh shit, I'm not that much happier than what I was before. Then you start looking at other places. Well, what else do I like or is important to me? Oh, well, I find that the ability for me to have balance in my life and have flexibility to go take off and do vacations or do things that I love to do. Wow, I actually value that than an extra $30,000 a year. So, maybe I'll make less money, but then do something that I am allowed to do this. So, finding out what success is to you is important too before you start, emulating somebody else's fucking routine that they did to become successful.
It also helps too, because sometimes you'll look at someone, if you don't have your definition of success, you can become envious of people and not even realize that you shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like you could look at someone, like you said, who's making tons of money and be like, ugh, I want to be like that. Yeah. And really not realize that if you were like that, you would not be happy.
Well, yeah, especially when, like for example, that's a great analogy where we talk about like a Steve Jobs or whatever. Like, you think you want that because of the money, the fame, and the success, but then you also are a person that values your family and relationships and stuff like that. And then you have no idea that that person has terrible relationships with people because they have no time for anybody else because they're so driven on their goal. It's like you don't even know that because you don't see the behind the scenes, especially. And I think this is more today than ever because of like Instagram and social media and the way people present themselves.
Yeah.
And in our space, I see this a lot with like some of these physiques that, these guys, my peers, present themselves at this 4% to 6% body fat range almost year round. I know what it takes to do that. There's very little balance in your life when you have that. And they try and present it that way because they show a picture of a Pop-Tart and fucking having a pizza on Friday night. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that's what your full definition of balance is, that you get to have a fucking pizza every once in a while. Meanwhile, you're obsessing over this look and this body fat percentage year round. Like,
not worth it.
Yeah, not. I know what my life was like with that. And it's not to say that it was so miserable. It's just that I'm way happier today in a softer looking physique than what I was 3 years ago at my prime physique. So it's not what everybody thinks it is when we present this on Instagram of us, driving around in our cool cars and our abs and all that shit. It's like, yeah, then you see the real behind the scenes. That person's like by themselves all the time, no friends, no social life, like. Fuck that, dude.
Yeah, hilarious. Did you guys read that article I posted maybe like a week or two ago? And I wanted to bring it up. I forgot to bring it up. It was on my Insta story, and the title of it was "From Astrology to Cult Politics: The Many Ways We Try and Fail to Replace Religion." Did you guys end up reading that one?
No, I didn't.
It was a really, really well-made written article, and it was about how there's this movement. There's been this movement now for the last 20, 30 years away from religion, but it's what's happened is people aren't moving away from religion. They're moving away from what's traditionally been called religion, and they're moving towards.
I said this when we when we first got together. This was my big thing when we were talking about ayahuasca and all these people, all these spiritual yet not religious people, and I scoff at it because it's fucking the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. You sit here and you talk down about religion, but then you turn around and you create your own, but not call it religion, but yet you're enlightened and it's this other spiritual thing that you're chasing. It's just, it's so, who talked about this? And
it's a rebrand.
Bishop, it is a rebrand. That's a great way to say it. It's a fucking rebrand. Bishop Barron and Rabbi, whatever that
talk,
they touch on it a little bit in there too.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, no, that was excellent. That was a really cool interview.
It was a great article. Someone had posted it on Facebook. I don't remember what page it was, and there was this. There were comments back and forth. I love to read comments because I like to see what people think about certain things. And there was this one person who was saying, they were railing on about Christianity, which of course, and again, I'm not a super religious individual, but it's socially acceptable to rail on Christianity, which I think is a little bit hypocritical. So this guy's railing on Christianity, and when you click on his profile picture, he's got he's got pictures of himself with crystals and shit and I'm like, buddy, why is it cool for you to worship your crystals and it's not cool for someone to worship something else? It's all the same thing.
Right.
So this article was really good because it was talking about how when you eliminate the religion, the traditional religions, people tend to replace them with other things. And one of the things that this guy is speculating that's replacing religion is cult politics, where people are becoming almost treating their political party or leaders like religious figures, like they're worshiping them. The communists knew this. They've always known this. That's why communism always tries to squash religion because they want nothing above the state, and they know that once they do that, then people tend to worship their collectivist ideas or whatever.
They touched on that interview that you sent. They touched on that too.
Did they talk about that?
Yeah, they talked about that too. That was a really good interview. I can't think of his name. Rubin Report. It was the Rubin Report with Bishop Barron and Rabbi.
I would love to get that rabbi on the show. I don't remember his name. But
I love what he's doing right now. I mean, I love that he's interviewing these people that he completely would not agree with. And
people don't know this, but Rubin, with the Rubin Report, great show. He's
atheist gay guy.
He's an atheist gay guy.
Yeah, right. And he's bringing on a bishop and a rabbi to have a discussion.
Just have discussions.
Fucking awesome.
I think it's so, and they're all respectful, and they're having, but they're also standing their ground because there was a point there where Bishop Barron and the rabbi were talking about the differences between Judaism and Christianity.
Right.
And I was like, here we go. Yeah, like nobody ever wants to talk about, especially those two sides.
Yeah, where it sort of ends.
And they did. Rabbi Wolpe, how do you pronounce that? Wlpe? I don't know.
Anyway, great.
Did you guys hear that Rubin and Peterson are leaving Patreon?
I did.
Yeah, why though? What's going on with Patreon?
Patreon has been taking people off their platform for hate speech, but what they're doing with their new censorship policy is they're saying if we identify any of your speech as hate speech on any platform ever, then we will remove you from our platform. So in other words, first off, what do they define as hate speech?
I mean, right away, what happens at freedom of speech? I mean, that's totally infringing on that.
They're a private organization, so they can do whatever they want.
Right.
But it's a little scary because they've been selectively eliminating people who would be considered conservative. Like there was this one group that talked about, they were against the extremist Islamic extremism, but they were labeled as a hate group, and so they were taken off. But then they also have these really hateful left groups that even call for violence, and they still have them on. And so, Rubin and Peterson are kind of like, well, this is too vague. We don't know what your definitions are.
Yeah. If you were consistent about it, it was all clearly defined, that's one thing. But they have obviously have a bias. And that's where it's like, come on.
What's his name also left? Sam Harris for the same thing.
Yeah.
Sam Harris left. And by the way, these guys are making millions of dollars on Patreon. So they literally left and lost all that money.
Yeah, those are huge accounts they lost.
And Sam Harris said he feels like it's there's a political bias going on as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary. Well, I don't know. That's not scary.
I don't know,
actually.
dude.
It's actually interesting.
And we talked about this because I think that it's going to be cool to see what emerges as a competition wise, like who's going to create sort of the next platform for us to all look into.
And you talk about people like Sam Harris and Rubin and him and Jordan. Like these are some of the most influential people right now on social platforms.
And
they have a lot of weight.
So them making a stance already that's what I love about.
Well, that's actually a great example of how the market should work.
Yes, that's what I love. That's why I never
just checked them.
I don't ever get that, that scared about what we see going on because I would be more scared 100 years ago when it takes a long time for things to travel. So if you saw a movement or a change or something in society that was scary, like, oh my God, I would be more freaked out 100 years ago than I am today. Today, like if it's that scary or it's that ridiculous, it's like it's only a matter of time before enough people are speaking out the opposite direction. And because stuff can travel so far and we can connect.
Sure, why not create a different type of Patreon and have it, have all these people on who don't want to be on Patreon. Now you have a competitor.
Right. And we talked about this before, and you've brought it up as a concern, like with YouTube, and that's a platform that we utilize. And it's like, well, what happens when YouTube starts to do things like that and they start to control more of it? We want to make sure that we own our audience and they don't own that. It's like, I don't really get that scared about it because I think that will also open up an opportunity for a competitor that will come in and that won't be that way. Mm-hmm. And that'd probably be the platform that we'd ended up using. And then the people that really care to listen to Mind Pump would travel over there.
So YouTube will realize how badly that's going to hurt their business.
Yeah. So I don't know. Those things they're interesting to talk about and discuss, and I think it's important to.
Well, this is a big deal because Rubin, Sam Harris, and Peterson, I believe, and there was another individual. I don't remember what it was. It was a podcast. In fact, it was on Patreon. They represent they're all the top 5 or 10 on Patreon gone.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So they lost.
How much does Patreon make? What percentage do they make of?
I have
donations?
no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea. But I know at one point Peterson, before he took off.
He was making like $1 million a month or something like that.
Well, no, it was hundreds of thousands or something. But that was a long time ago. So he could very well be making.
Oh, I thought I read somewhere that he was getting like $1 million a month
I don't
or something.
know.
Something crazy.
Yeah. So are you guys still liking the new Pure?
Yes.
Organifi Pure?
I just had some.
Isn't it?
I do like it.
They hit it out of the park.
I think it's because it's more subtle. That's why. And I know you said it. That,
lion's mane.
You think that's what it is?
I think it's the lion's mane. I really like. Every time I've taken lion's mane consistently, I feel I notice a difference. What do you feel from it? Let me ask you guys that because I don't want to, give my 2 cents yet. I want to hear what you guys feel.
One, we've had nootropics before that have upset my stomach, that I've gotten headaches from, that I feel racy. I've tried. And that's what I mean by it seems more subtle. I don't feel any of those things. I feel clear-minded. I feel like I have energy, but not like the same kind of energy I get from coffee or something that affects my central nervous system, right? It feels like I'm just full of energy.
I feel like recalling information. I think it's a little bit of a sharper process, and I think that was the main benefit to a lot of those nootropics that I experienced. But it did have those moments where it was like I get the tension headaches, or it'd get a little bit more of the shakiness like you get from like too much stimulation and caffeine. So. But it was nice. I took the Pure like the last 5 days where we were all kind of off on our separate thing, and I only had like maybe 1 cup of coffee or no cups of coffee, and just had some of that, and it was nice because it was very like a gradual kind of energy that sustained.
Yeah, you guys should have seen me because I put together a guide, and then I did a few blogs, and I sat down. I had my Brain FM on. I had my blue blocker glasses on. I drank my, Pure, and I was in the zone. And I'm sure part of it's the ritual. You know what I mean? Like wearing the same socks or whatever to go.
Oh, yeah. Well, part of it's that, and I was actually thinking about the same thing because I was so creative, and I think it was this interesting feeling where it's the end of the year. We did a lot of work this year, and we were all kind of like accepting sort of what was coming in and like getting excited about it. But it was like it felt for the first time we could allow ourselves to kind of relax and take some time to really just be apart from it. And just being apart from it allowed for that creativity to really come back, and it came back in floods.
Really?
Man. It was crazy. Yeah.
That's such a big part of what we do. We have to continue to make sure we foster that creative aspect of what we do. You know what I mean? Dude, I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Did you guys? So we brought this up one time on the show about the virtual reality and the augmented reality for watching NBA games.
Yeah, Oculus.
Yeah, and so there's that opportunity as far as a at-home viewer, but actually the Clippers rolled out something for people that actually would show up to the event. And so like what they have, it's called Court Vision. And they offer like 3 different modes. There's a mascot mode, there's a coach mode, and a player mode.
I fucking knew it was going this way.
Yes.
Tell me I didn't.
I know. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I was like, dude, Adam, I remember you talking about this. And they literally are doing it, and it sounds so cool too. Like, so in coach mode, fans can watch plays drawn on the screen as they develop. Player mode shows real-time advanced statistics, such as their probability of the player making a shot.
God.
Yeah, in mascot mode, the system generates like animations and stuff when they do a big dunk or a 3-pointer happens. So it's like, it just makes it kind of exciting. But so you're seeing all this augmented
more interaction,
reality interaction while you're watching it real time. Sounds awesome.
Oh my God. You imagine that in MMA? He's going to hit him. It's going to be like,
his head explodes or something.
Yeah, but
it's fucking really brilliant when you think about it.
That's going to dramatically increase
because it's
sports
super
viewership.
entertaining.
Yeah, it's gonna bring in people that would normally not watch sports because it's just.
So one of the big problems, I read an article on this. One of the big challenges that sports are having right now with viewership is that kids aren't watching sports like they used to.
Yeah,
like
when video games.
When we were kids, we grew up watching professional athletes and sports, and it was a big deal. Kids don't give a shit anymore. No. This, I think, would save that, because now kids are going to want to watch this augmented reality, athlete doing, like you said, dunks with freaking animations and shit going on. Then you have the hardcore fans watching with the statistics and the coaching and stuff, that's gonna blow them up.
Is
a whole new thing.
Is it active and going, or is this something they're launching?
Yeah. It says that they rolled it out as something that they're offering.
I gotta get the Oculus thing. I've been talking about doing it for a while now. It's not that expensive. I want to do it so I could talk about it firsthand and see, because it looks freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting.
Cool.
Speaking of kids, do you give your kids the skinny dipped almonds?
Yeah.
What's their response?
Their favorite is the raspberry.
Really?
Yeah. That's the one that they always request from me all the time.
Have you showed them the Doug's peanut butter mix yet?
What's
the peanut butter and jelly mix?
Doug does the raspberry, and then he adds the peanut butter, and then he eats them both at the same time. So he gets like a peanut butter and jelly type of.
Oh, that's brilliant. No.
Yeah, no, it's cool because they used to want to eat those. What were they? They're like granola bars, but they're like real popular or whatever. So I've been giving them like the skinny dipped ones instead as a treat, and it's nice because like you feel a little bit better in terms of like if they're going to have something to go along with lunch or whatever.
Well, it's almonds, and then the whole packet is what, 5 grams of sugar,
very little amounts of chocolate coating over it.
Yeah,
do you want to talk about little versus a lot of sugar? We this at Tahoe was Jalen's birthday. He turned 24, and he requested this thing from Pinterest for his mom to make, and it was what are those? What are the rolls that you get that are...
crescent rolls or whatever?
No. The rolls that you...
Pillsbury.
Yes, Pillsbury rolls, right? So it's deep fried Pillsbury ball rolls, right? So
I'm in already.
You deep fry those, and then you take jelly and you insert the jelly into the donut, and then you take peanut butter and you heat peanut butter up with butter. And you mix it so it's hot, and then you drizzle it over the top of this thing, and then you let it harden so the peanut butter hardens like a soft candy.
Dude, I haven't even had lunch yet. You're killing me right now.
Soft candy shell.
Was it good?
I mean, it wasn't my thing. I shit on it a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
While they were serving it?
Yeah, I did.
That's mean.
I know. Well, you asked my opinion. You know
so wait. So she literally made this for her boy.
It's because he didn't like her chili dog, right?
Yeah, it was like that. Hey, fuck, give me shit about my chili dog. This is a fucking white trash.
You want to be
treat right
honest?
here.
You want to be honest?
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said it was like it reminded me of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that my mom made for me in my sandwich bag that sat in my fucking in my school locker for the whole day, and then I ate it.
You didn't go easy
so you're
at
nice
all.
about it.
No, I was not.
Wow.
That wasn't nice at all. Well, because I came out and said like, it's not really for me, and then we were going back and forth about it. And it's funny that Justin just said that because there is some truth to that. I was irritated because he was giving me shit about the chili cheese dogs. And so he's busting my balls on the chili cheese dogs. I'm like, and then you request this fucking white trash dessert? Like, what's up with this?
Here it comes, dude.
Right.
White trash dessert?
Fucking Pillsbury Jello filled fucking peanut butter all over
You
it.
take corn chips, you sprinkle sweet and low on them. You put them on white bread, you roll it up, put butter on it.
It's always Wonder Bread.
Now,
Wonder Bread.
In
like
my
Nutella.
In my sister's defense, who made them
White
for
trash
my
delight.
nephew, I think she didn't allow the peanut butter to cool and dry, and I think you're supposed to let it harden more like a shell, and it was still kind of hot and drizzly, and so I think that kind of ruined the effect of it. So it wasn't for me. But I've never been. That's way over sweet and fat to me. It's too much.
Yeah, that is
deep fried. You got butter involved. You got sugar. I mean, that's just. My stomach can't handle.
It's a
all
mouth
that.
explosion.
I would eat deep fried butter stick.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Oh, you too?
Yeah.
See, you're
I'm a big.
You're my boy.
Butter guy.
I would eat that fucker.
They call me Butterball. Yeah.
That's right. That's true.
I'm just gonna own that from now on, I guess.
Butterball. I don't know why that's your sound.
I don't know. They tickle me right in the stomach. Yeah.
This Quah is brought to you by Organifi. For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's Organifi.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout. First question is from Smash Ballard. How do you recommend to combat seasonal depression?
Yeah, seasonal. Do you guys ever get that where you find your moods changing and shifting?
Sure, for sure, because it
Really?
gets dark.
It's the darkness.
Yeah, dark and rainy, and you're indoors all day long. You're not getting the natural light. Like I definitely think that is I mean, I kind of feel it in myself. Like I'll get if it's been kind of a week where we've had a lot of rain and I've been indoors a lot. After a while, I get like cabin fever, right? They say where you get restless and I just want to be out and do something. Like, so I mean, yeah, I think it's really common, right? Especially if you live somewhere like Seattle or Alaska or some of those places. Like I could see that being a major issue.
Yeah, they've identified that the lack of sunlight can cause that in people. So one thing, believe it or not, this has actually been a prescription for some. I'm not recommending this, by the way. Just saying. For some people, is to go to a tanning bed.
Yes.
I think red light therapy is probably going to help you with that, and it's not harmful UV rays like you'll get from a tanning bed.
100%.
So maybe do something like that. The other thing too is the lower synthesis of vitamin D because you're not getting that much sunlight. And I've read some studies that show that supplementing, well, first off, low vitamin D levels has been linked to feelings of depression. So you could take vitamin D, and that might help. But you know what the best thing is?
Take the D.
You know what thanks, Justin. You know what the best thing is to combat or prevent kind of this run-of-the-mill occasional feelings of blueness or feeling sad? Exercise.
Oh yeah.
Nothing is better than exercise.
It's just hard to get to that when you're in that mode, right? That's the hard part is when you're feeling this way, getting out and exercising and putting work in is one of the harder things to actually get you to do.
Well,
right?
I just read an article
like
where
driving down to the tanning salon is much easier than, or standing in front of your Juve light is a lot easier to motivate someone to do it. But I agree with you. If you can get your ass to the gym and go work out and exercise, the feeling that you have afterwards, it speaks for itself.
It's also long lasting. Yeah. It also changes how the brain actually operates. It feeds different parts of the brain to perhaps keep feelings of depression and sadness away, not just post workout, but long term. I just read an article where there was another study that came out that showed that exercise. There's several now that have come out to show that exercise is probably going to start to become a recommended prescription for people who have these kind of mild forms of depression and anxiety. And one of the challenges was exactly what you just said, Adam. In the article, they said one of the challenges is getting someone who already feels that way to get up and move. And so what they're talking about doing is trying to establish strategies for getting people to get started. Because once you get started, exercise if you do it right, exercise can be self-motivating. Like once you do it and once you start to feel the benefits of it, especially if it's because you're sad and you start to feel better, that in and of itself may actually help motivate you to continue doing it.
No, I agree. I think you just got to make that connection. I think a lot of the average people probably don't connect those dots, right? That was from the exercise why you feel so positive today. So I think making that connection, and we're always so driven by how we look and the scale and things like that, and if you stop thinking so much that direction and think more about your mood and how you feel and attach that to your exercise, I think you'd be more likely to do that. And then you would also probably treat the actual exercise time differently. Like it wouldn't be about, I need to get this hardcore sweat in and I need to make sure it
feels good.
Sore. Yeah, I'm going to go move. Like I'm going to go do some movements and I'm going to practice squatting. Or I'm going to go practice deadlifting. I mean, we talk about this on the show a lot, and I'm definitely, this is kind of where I've been, even though I'm inconsistent with my regimen, I still am moving. I'm still working on my mobility. I'm still going and practicing squatting. And so I'm still doing a lot of things that benefit my overall health, which is probably why you think I look healthier now than I have since we've started this is, I'm not just letting myself get out of shape and just eat like shit and not fucking exercise at all. I'm doing movements. I'm just not training to build muscle like crazy. I'm just, sometimes I'm getting in there to move and feel better. And that's kind of what I'm looking at.
I recognize right away too, and especially after it's been dark and gloomy and how quickly I find myself being drawn towards sugary foods and processed stuff, and that it doesn't even really seem that appealing when it's nice and sunny out and I'm very active and I'm just doing things constantly. But man, when it starts to get super cold, dark, gloomy, whatever, it's just for some reason it's just that's one of those comfort things. You're
exactly. Think about how those foods are often used. They're often used as a way to what's the word, not medically, but you're trying to you treat something. You're trying to treat yourself. Maybe you're feeling a little down, so you're going to treat yourself with
Get a little spike
with a drug-like substance of processed food or sugar or whatever to make you feel a little better. Plus, carbohydrates do increase serotonin, so it could also be a part of that. But you're medicating, you're self-medicating. That's the word I want to use. Yeah. It's you're self-medicating with these foods, and the consumption of these types of foods does go up when people start to feel a little down because you're just trying to feel better in the moment. But exercise is the absolute, in my opinion, absolute best thing you could do. Now, if it's hard for you to find the motivation to exercise, like to get started, one of the most widely available mild antidepressant substances that you can take that actually has an acute effect on you, unless you're super addicted to it already, is caffeine. So if you're feeling kind of down and you're like, I can't get motivated to go work out, you can try having a little bit of caffeine. Take some theanine with it. That's an amino acid that when taken with caffeine helps negate the nervousness or anxiety inducing effects that caffeine can have. Wait about 30 minutes as you start to feel it pick up a little bit. Take advantage of that feeling and then go exercise and move. And you may find yourself, starting to feel a lot better. The other thing too is just, sometimes you might have to change your outlook on the seasons. I know a lot of people get kind of sad around the holidays because it reminds them of like lost loved ones or, of events. We tend to connect, milestone, seasons or holidays to tragic events. Like I went through a divorce 4 years ago or whatever, Christmas might be more sad for someone like that, right? Maybe reframing, the seasons that way. So, if you hate the cold, maybe try to identify the beautiful things of the cold. Maybe start to identify the awesome things about the rain. It can be gloomy, but when's the last time you went outside without an umbrella and, put on some old clothes and played in the rain? Kids do this all the time. And as adults, we're like, I don't want to get wet. Like, you know what? One thing you learn with having kids is you start to appreciate some of the stuff that you forgot that was kind of awesome. Dude. And I'm going to tell you something else, fucking fun to play in the rain.
Totally. That's so funny you bring that up. I remember it was raining not so long ago, and I saw down the street on this field, they were playing mud football. And I was like, oh my God, I remember doing that. I would look forward to when it rained because then you call your buddies and be like, yeah, let's get after it. Get all muddy and disgusting. And, I loved it.
Yeah.
So, exactly. It is all about how you look at it.
Next question is from S. Miller Fit. Is it true that shorter people will put on muscle mass quicker than taller people?
Oh, this is a cool discussion.
Yeah.
This is a cool discussion.
Quicker?
I bet you $50 that Adam, I know you went through the same thing I did because we were both skinny ectomorphs wanting to build muscle.
Yeah.
I bet you at some point you wish you were not as tall.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I still say that today. I tell people all the time like that say, "Oh man, I wish I had your height." I'm like, if I could pick the ideal height, I would say it was 6 foot, and that's because of this reason. And it's less of can shorter people put on muscle mass quicker than taller people. It's less of that, and it's the factors that you have to think about that you're probably not considering. Like one, if you're 6'3" versus 5'8", the 6'3" person is typically going to be heavier. They're going to have more mass already naturally on their body, and so that person needs already more calories just to sustain the mass they are. And then if they have to eat additional to build, the calorie intake they have to eat in order to put the same amount of mass in ratio to the person who's shorter is significantly higher. And so, and I remember because this was when I was a kid, my buddy, who was much shorter than I was, and he was super muscular, and I was the tall, skinny, lanky kid. We ate identical. We trained together. We did everything pretty much the same. We took all the same supplements. We did everything the fucking same. We were like best friends, and he just looked fucking super muscular, and I didn't. It was so frustrating to me. And the fact was he was a 5'6" guy who only needed 3,000 calories to put on good mass. And I was a 6'3" lanky kid with a fast metabolism that needed to eat 5,000 to 6,000 calories if I wanted to put the equal amount of mass on that he was. And then in addition to that, when we do put mass on, let's say he puts 5 pounds of muscle on and I put 5 pounds of muscle on, it looks different on those different body types.
You got way more surface area.
Yeah.
It's all spread out over your long ass body.
Yeah, if you're a lanky person, 5 pounds of muscle stretched out over 6'3" looks totally different than 5 pounds of muscle put on somebody who's 5'8". So it's not that they actually put on mass quicker than taller people. It's those other variables that you don't think about that you have to take into consideration.
It's like what we talked about earlier in the episode when we were talking about the world's heaviest twins, and you said, 30 pounds. If you weigh 800 pounds and you lose 30 pounds, nobody can tell. Well, if you weigh 130 pounds and you lose 30 pounds, everybody can tell.
Right.
It's this. The reverse is also true. If you're if you're a smaller person and you gain a little bit of muscle, it just seems more pronounced.
Right.
I mean, the average height of a pro bodybuilder, I believe, is 5'8" or 5'9".
Super short.
I think is the average height. So there is kind of an ideal height. Now, that being said, would I, I'm 6 foot. Now that I'm kind of over the insecurity of the being skinny thing and whatever, would I trade my height for being more muscular? No. I'd rather be taller. I can build muscle. I can't build taller. So what I mean? So if you're people listening right now,
tried stretching.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. There's people who are insecure about being not so tall. I mean, I'm sure they would trade that shit for being skinny or losing muscle.
Yeah, I know.
All day long.
Because they know the
grass is always greener.
Well, like you said,
Thank you, Justin.
You can change that, right? You can change how big or small you are by how much weight you lift or not. But you can't change your height.
Now, shorter people also tend to have better leverage.
Yeah, that too. With
their lifts. Not all lifts, okay? Because deadlifts tend to benefit people with long ass arms. But squatting, if you're shorter and you've got short femurs, your squats look amazing. Like if you watch a squatter like Tom Platt's squat. I mean, his upper body is nice and erect, and he's got great posture, and he sits in the hole and he comes back up, and it's like gorgeous. Oh, yeah. You see like Arnold squat, and he was tall, he had long femurs, and it kind of looked awkward and painful a little bit, when he was squatting. So totally. I remember that too. Like you'd see the guys in the gym who'd be able to bench hella weight, and they'd have like these short arms and these really wide, kind of barrel upper bodies or whatever.
That's what I liked about powerlifting, is it's sort of you see those discrepancies, or you see where like one person has like a massive like advantage like leverage wise, like with deadlifts versus bench press, and where that it doesn't really carry over. So it's sort of a good equalizer.
It's true, actually. The best benchers are always typically not the best deadlifters.
No. Well, no, I would argue that the only thing that lends well to being tall and lanky is deadlifting.
Lift wise, yeah.
Everything else, it'd be more advantageous to be shorter and compact. Everything else, the only thing that would be to your advantage is deadlifting. Yeah. Every other movement, it's a longer lever, it's a longer way you have to travel. And that's the only having long limbs with a deadlift, you're shortening the range of motion of, versus if you are doing any other movement, you're actually lengthening the range of motion because you're longer. So
it's funny too, because I remember
throwing a ball, longer limbs obviously will help.
Well, I mean, most sports you want to have
an advantage.
Yeah, like I remember too as a kid, I was like, oh man, I wish my arms and legs were so long so that I could look like I was more muscular and lift more weight, this and that. And then I also would get into martial arts, and then I realized like, the best fighters have these really long ass arms and legs.
They're like spiders.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's like, okay, well, what's good for one may not be good for the other. But yes, this is definitely a true statement just because they're smaller. Now, that all being said, again, grass is greener, right? I can talk about the benefits of one over the other. So the benefits of being shorter, you don't need to put on that much muscle to look like you put on a lot of muscle. But on the other hand, if you're a tall person and you put on a lot of muscle, it looks way different.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you see a 6 foot or taller built person next to a 5'8" built person. Yeah. I mean, it's the reason why Arnold used to beat Franco on stage all the time. Franco Columbu, super ripped, super muscular, very comparable to Arnold in many ways.
Oh, you could argue that he was significantly had way more symmetry, like way more symmetry as far as his muscle balance. But Arnold was so impressive,
and his back dominated Arnold, and we all know that wins bodybuilding competition. But when he stand next to Arnold, he looked like a kid,
a child.
Yeah, because Arnold was is he 6'2"?
Yeah,
I think he says 6'4", but I don't think so. I met him, but he's tall and Franco was short. So.
Yeah.
Next question is from HMez4. What are some of your favorite exercises outside of the sagittal plane?
Oh, more good questions. These are good questions.
Yeah,
dude.
I like that. This is definitely something a lot of people don't even consider.
Well,
maybe you should explain the planes.
Yeah, explain the planes first so that people understand
Yeah.
like your traditional what a sagittal plane is.
Yeah, so sagittal plane for like basically in front of you and behind you. So if I'm going to cut my body and focus just on movements that are in front or behind me, that's going to be a sagittal plane.
Which are all your basic movements: squatting, deadlifting, overhead pressing, all the basics.
Everything you're used to,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
And, I mean, most gyms are completely set up to keep you in the sagittal plane, and so you almost have to like really think about like and have intent on your workout incorporating something else in the frontal plane where our movements are based left to right, and I'm more focused on moving in that direction, and then the transverse plane where there's rotation involved.
So do you guys have a single? I have one. My single favorite movement outside of the sagittal plane, or it encompasses that too, though, would be the Turkish get up. I think the Turkish get up, you get.
It's like all
that's why it's so great, right?
Yeah,
it's
everything in one.
It kind of gives you, and I remember, I think it was Shallow when we were hanging out was teasing about the Turkish get up. Because he's a power strength guy, you know what I'm saying? And it's like it doesn't have
potatoes,
right? Yeah, getting great at the Turkish. If you are super strong at the Turkish get up, doesn't mean you're ever going to be that great at deadlifting, squatting, overhead pressing, or any of these other major movements for powerlifting. But I would argue that it's one of the greatest and underrated movements that are out there, because when you talk about all the different planes that you would move in, it's one of those things that really addresses all of it, and it's a full body exercise.
Yeah.
Everything
it's the
from
entire kinetic chain,
yes,
activated all at once, and you can really kind of, I mean, and it's a slow exercise to where you really have to pay attention to all those little nuances that your body. It really highlights any compensation that's there.
Such a great movement.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider too is if you develop a lot of strength and performance in one dimension and you neglect the other dimensions, you actually can set yourself up for a higher risk of injury. So, it's like you get a car and you give it a ton of power to go straight in a line.
Right, but terrible brakes or suspension.
Yeah, and
It was like drag racing.
yeah,
basically.
it's like now you have. So if you're a power lifter and you're super, super, super strong in these sagittal plane movements, right? Your squat, your deadlift, and your bench press. Now you've got all this amazing power that you can generate in this sagittal plane. That means that although your lateral stability is probably way better than the average person, because the discrepancy between your lateral stability to the stability of going forward and back is so off, the risk of injury is quite high. I mean, you take somebody who only trains in the sagittal plane, is extremely powerful, and you put them in an environment where they need to exhibit power laterally, and you watch what happens. You see a lot of rolled ankles.
Well,
and hurt
or
knees
something, a more simple analogy is like somebody who can deadlift 600-700 pounds has no problem carrying something that's like 150 pounds, right? But ask them to rotate that and set it on something. So you pick up this heavy boulder and you set it to your left or your right, because they don't train rotational movements and they're always training the sagittal plane, and because they think that it's only 100 pounds, it's not a lot of weight, and I'm used to, I could deadlift 600, how did I hurt myself with 100 pounds? Well, you hurt yourself with 100 pounds because you don't train rotational strength.
Right.
And even though you are really strong picking that up, you're not used to moving outside of that plane.
Right. And as far as developing your physique is concerned and your body, doing things that you're not good at and then becoming good at them tends to develop your body in better ways. Now, this is true for basic exercises. Like if I only ever do barbell curls for my biceps and I get really, really good at barbell curls, and then I go and I do drag curls, and these are, by the way, where you're on an incline.
You're wearing like a wig
skirt.
and
yeah.
okay.
Dude, no, it's where your elbows
Makeup.
are behind your body. Or another version is where you're dragging the bar up your body as you're curling, and now you're not good at it, so you practice getting good at that. You may notice development in your bicep because you're learning a new movement. It's muscle fibers have to fire a little bit differently. Central nervous system has to fire a little bit differently. And this is true for a lot of things. So if you're trying to develop a very well-balanced body and you're kind of plateaued, try getting good at some of the stuff you're not good at. So let's say you're really good at a squat, like you're excellent at squats, but when you go to try and do like a Cossack squat,
which is one of my favorites for the frontal plane.
yeah, you're terrible at them. start getting good at them, and then watch what happens to your leg development.
So what are your? I mean, I gave you guys my Turkish
Cossack for frontal. Yeah, I was going to mention that one for sure is a go-to for me. Or even just a lateral lunge for that matter. Any step ups I think are great to just, if you want to simplify, and you don't want to get like super creative, but just like add load to different movements you're not really used to doing, like something in the frontal plane or with rotation. I feel like step ups is a great way to do that. Simply just by stepping, to your left, to your right, or rotating and twisting, and so you're just sort of slowly, figuring it out with your body on like what it takes to generate the proper amount of forces and stabilize while your body is moving in a new sort of direction. So
one exercise that I never did before we all met was a windmill. I'd never done a windmill.
Yeah.
And that rotating and bending, I love deadlifting. I'm a big deadlifter. I love to pull a lot of weight. It's something that comes natural to me. I've always enjoyed doing it. And I thought I had done everything that would contribute to having a better, more stable deadlift. Well, to my surprise, and the reason why I practiced windmills in the first place was, I don't know if it was Justin. I think it might have been Justin who showed us how to do a windmill, and we put it in one of our programs. And I remember I went to do it without any weight, and I couldn't do it without weight. I couldn't get into the position without weight. And it was very frustrating to me. And I knew it was because I had no connection to that movement. I had zero connection. So I tried to do it, and I would feel stiff, and I could tell it was like I couldn't find the right connection of muscles and firing to get myself in a position. So I said, okay, I'm going to practice this because this is silly. So I started practicing this movement, and two benefits I got out of it. One, my deadlift started becoming more stable, because what used to happen with my deadlift sometimes is I start to feel pain in my SI joint, and windmills really works that range of motion, especially with the QL muscle, the quadratus lumborum.
Yeah.
And it made my deadlift feel stronger. The second thing it did is it worked my shoulder mobility because of the bottom position. But it's all because I tried moving in a plane that I normally don't work in.
Well, it's interesting you brought that up, because that's what led me to windmills, because of I strained my QL when I was deadlifting heavy, and like there was just like that slight that slight shift, and my body reacted to it, and it braced way too hard. It overreacted, and so I went through a process of just trying to regain mobility and ability at the same time. And so I started doing windmills, without weight, and then started adding weight, and it really helped to fortify that area of my body that really didn't have any support. So.
I also like the side chopping exercises, whether they be with bands or with a medicine ball. There was one point where I was doing a lot of these medicine ball throws to the side, and I'd bounce them off a wall. And I got really good oblique development from that. My obliques got so strong and defined and built from taking a medicine ball, bringing it to one side of my body, and slamming it to the opposite side.
I know Danny just did a good video of this, but I love using the landmine for a lot of these like rotational moves as well.
I just bought one for my home gym.
Yeah, and there's a cool what do you call it? Adapter piece that you can add to the squat rack from PRX. I just got for a landmine that you sort of attach to it. Attachment, that's what I was looking for. But yeah, so just doing like a rotational move from side to side with the landmine is one of my favorites. And you can also do that while lunging, and I love lunging with rotation, because now I'm also in that sort of unilateral kind of stability where I'm accounting for that, but now I'm also like controlling and rotating at the same time, which is way more likely of something in a sport, because sports are multi-directional. Like there's no getting around that. Like you have to be able to stabilize on command, and not only just from what you're doing, but from somebody running into you, or surface and ground surface, whatever it is. Like you're having to overcome all these different forces and account for them. And so to me, that's why all these things are so much more relevant than just muscular development.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest reasons why people feel sometimes stiff and robotic from resistance training is because they literally train like a robot, all in the front, all in the back. Like they don't do any other
front to back
movement, and how you train is going to be how you end up moving. So even for those of you listening right now that are only focused on aesthetics, first of all, I think it'll improve your aesthetics, but second of all, it just makes you feel better.
Next question is from the Dave Lifestyle. Of course, you shouldn't go hard when you have a cold, but what about when you are having horrible allergy issues?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What does the Dave lifestyle look like? That's what I want to know.
Adam, you have pretty bad, or you've had really bad seasonal allergies. What's it like working out without, like, what do you do?
It fucking sucks. It sucks is what it did. What it's like. I mean, anybody has really bad allergies, which, by the way, I actually, the last couple of years, my allergies have not been nowhere near.
You think it's dietary?
I do. I do think that I was eating high inflammatory foods that I didn't realize were contributing to my allergies. And I think as I've cleaned the diet up over the last couple of years, I think that especially when I started to reduce the amount of carbohydrate intake, when we went through that whole ketogenic process, and then I never went back to that. I've never gone back to where I was at 1.5, 600 grams of carbs a day. Now it's way, way less than that. And so I would attribute part of my reduction of symptoms from allergies to that, if I had to tease it out. But I've definitely had really bad allergies most of my life. And it sucks, but it's never stopped me from training hard. It's just I'm carrying tissue with me. I've been like that before, where I'm training hard and I'm blowing my nose in between sets, and that's just because my seasonal allergies could be and at times have been so bad that I've got it every single day. I wouldn't allow it to really affect my training. Now, do I know if that's ideal or not? I don't know. I can't tell you that. Like I know that, when you have your allergies, you're inflamed. So, am I inflaming myself even more because I'm training hard too? And should I modify my training and reduce it? I never really did. I never modified my training because of my allergies. It would just be like, this fucking sucks today that I'm, wiping snot on my fucking t-shirt or blowing my nose between sets. But I never adjusted my intensity based off of that.
Well, the drugs and medications that people will take to reduce allergy symptoms are typically histamine blocking type.
See, now I avoid that at all cost. So I would rather.
You're drowsy, right?
Well, not only that,
well, some of them do.
Some of them, even.
Yeah, and you build up a tolerance for those really fast, and then before you know it, you're having to take Benadryls and Zyrtec and Allegra, and
then when you go off of them, you get a rebound.
Yeah, so at all cost, I avoid those unless I'm just so miserable that I've got to take them. And plus, I think you've shared, Sal, too. Like it's if you're taking a lot of those, it doesn't affect protein synthesis too.
Well, histamine's got an interesting effect on performance. It's a vasodilator. Histamine actually goes up with cardiovascular activity. Now, funny enough, studies will show that resistance training doesn't raise histamine. So I have to look deeper into this, but I think if you're having really bad allergies and you don't want to make your symptoms worse, you should probably not do heavy cardio, and you might be okay with kind of slow traditional resistance training to not raise the histamine and get more of that happening.
I mean, to that point, I don't ever feel like when I train hard in the gym that it affects my allergies. Like it doesn't make them worse.
But if you were to go running and shit like that.
Oh yeah. Then trying to breathe while you're having for sure. But weight training, my weight training never got adjusted based off of allergies. I did colds if I was sick. If I was sick, I would reduce my intensity, but not if my allergies were bothering me. My allergies bothering me. It's just annoying. You
can also look in. I mean, you mentioned diet. You can look into reducing potential food intolerances. They tend to cause an immune reaction that makes allergies worse for a lot of people. So some people, if they have a mild intolerance to dairy, for example, or to gluten, eliminating those, they find way less symptoms of their allergies. I know when I was a kid, I was an asthmatic, and it got worse with dairy, and it got better if I eliminated dairy. So look at those types of things. Also look into that you may be having some histamine issues with the types of foods that you're eating. And there is an enzyme that you can buy, and I think the enzyme is known by its acronym DAO, I believe. DAO or DOA. And you could take this enzyme before your meals and see if that reduces your allergies. And all it is an enzyme that helps break down the histamine that's found in certain foods. Like some foods are very high in histamine.
Like avocado.
Or sardines, canned fish, processed meats tend to be high. Certain nuts tend to be high in histamine, or at least called histamine releasers, if I'm not mistaken.
Which I guess you should be careful, because I just talked about being on the ketogenic diet and how that's some.
Yeah, because you could go keto and then go high histamine diet.
Yeah, that limits your options.
Yeah, because your options are kind of limited.
Which I never had that problem. I mean, I really think it had more to do with the systemic inflammation that I was probably getting from the high carbohydrate intake, and when I reduced that. But my allergies have significantly reduced. I mean, I can count on...
What a great sign.
Yeah, I can count on one hand. It's funny, too, that we actually haven't talked about this much, because I guess it's just slowly over time got better and better and better. But I can count on one hand how many times I took an allergy pill this year. I mean, I for sure took less than 5.
Wow.
And at one point in my life as a young adult in my mid and early 20s, I could, in a season, I could go every single day taking a Benadryl or Allegra or what. In fact, I used to keep 3 different bottles, and I would rotate through them so I wouldn't get used to one strain or the other, and I just keep using them all the time. So I went from somebody who used to use allergy pills every single day almost during a high season to pretty much none now.
Yeah, because histamine's a vasodilator. Sometimes what people will do is if they work out too hard, like they do that cardio, get more histamine up. They'll find that that working out with allergies gives them a migraine or really bad headaches as a result. So I would say it's fine to work out with allergies, but at the end of the day, you got to listen to your body. So if it feels like you got to go easier or slower, then go ahead and do it. Like I said, look into your diet to see if that affects your allergies and if it makes it feel better. Anecdotally speaking, I've had a lot of clients who've had success with that, and so have I. So look, check it out. Go to mindpumpfree.com right now and go check out our free guides. I believe there's like 10 on there right now. So you can go check them out. You can download all of them, and they cost nothing. Also, you can find our individual personal pages of social media on Instagram. You can find me at Mind Pump Sal. You can find Adam at Mind Pump Adam. And Justin is at Mind Pump Justin.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.